Welcome again to our second session on life at its best. And we're going to look a little bit more at food and exercise in this session. I hope that you'll enjoy it. Healthy eating, regular exercise and enough sleep combine to provide the foundation for good health at all ages. Eating enjoyable meals and snacks with friends is one of the pleasures in life, isn't it? It's really good to be able to be with friends and have something to eat. Not saying you have to be on some crazy sort of diet or extreme diet, but having good food is an important factor. Food provides the building blocks for our bodies. Healthy food choices mean healthy bodies. And so it's what we do on a regular daily basis that makes a difference. Okay, there'll be special occasions where we have special foods, and that's fine. But what you do on a regular basis on each day actually determines your health status, how well your body functions, and that's very important. Food is linked to our emotional growth and also our development. If the body is poorly nourished, you are more likely to become tired and cranky. And that doesn't feel good on your side, but it feels worse on someone else's side when you're with other people. And so having good food is important. Have you noticed that when you haven't had a decent meal, or maybe you've skipped a meal, or you've just had a little snack, how by the time evening comes along, you're really feeling tired and flat, and maybe a little cranky? Not so good. There are 3 keys of good nutrition, and you can apply them to all areas of life. But I have applied them to food. The first one is balance. Balance, I think, is an important key. Balance when you look at food, between the different types of food that you choose, between the food that is raw and the food that is cooked. The next key is variety. We don't have miracle foods, except mother's milk for little babies, and we're way past that. And so we need to have some variety. And variety doesn't mean 25 things on your plate all at once. It means looking at variety in the different types of food groups, and we will look at that a little later too. So we'll just leave that there. And the last key is moderation, because the body only needs a certain amount. And when you give the body more than what it needs, usually there's a negative result, and we don't want that. And so the 3 keys of good nutrition are balance, variety, and moderation. And so let's have a look at food. We need to choose mostly vegetables, fruit, whole grain breads, cereals, and legumes. Legumes that are dried beans and peas. And you might say, why? Because those foods provide your body with the energy that it needs, with lots and lots of different nutrients and another source that we now understand that are called phytochemicals. And they're the natural substances that our wonderful Creator has put into our plant foods that has a tremendous effect on the way your body functions and also to reduce the risk of disease. There's another food group, and we should only choose moderately from that food group. And that would be the dairy or the non-dairy products. Personally, I use soya drink. But whichever one you choose, you only need moderate quantities. Meat, chicken and fish, or vegetable protein foods if you're a vegetarian, nuts and seeds, and eggs if you use them. You do not need these foods in large quantities. What interests me is when you either see food dished up, or if you go to a restaurant, often the meat part or the fish or the chicken part will cover half the plate with a little salad on the side and maybe a roast potato on the other side. That is actually the opposite way to the way that you should see your food on the plate, and for health and for well-being. Most of the food should come from a plant source with small amounts of animal foods if you choose to use them. And then we have the group that we should only choose from least. And that would be added fat such as butter, margarine, cooking oils, fatty snack foods and sugary sweets. And you might say, well, they're the things I really enjoy. We're not saying you can't have them, but don't have them in quantities, because it doesn't actually help your body to function well. Looking at sugar, most simple carbohydrates, sugars are found in commercially prepared foods like soft drinks, cordials, cakes, lollies, sweet biscuits and syrups. And so these are the added sugars and you might say, isn't there sugar in fruit? Yes, there is. But that sugar is in the company of everything that the body needs to change that into energy. And so fruit sugar is very good. If you have lots and lots of fruit juice, then you're going to have quite a lot of sugar coming in. Have most of your fruit just as it was grown on the tree or on the shrub. You can have a glass of fruit juice as well, that's not wrong. But have most of your fruit actually coming from the fruit itself. That's a much better way. And so the refined foods that are so common today and that are everywhere, and many people have got into the habit of using them. And changing habits, have you noticed that? Is not real easy, but you can do it. We talked about choices in the first session, and I want you to make the right choices and say, I'm going to have less of all these processed foods and I'm going to have a little more of the whole foods when I'm going to benefit. And you actually will feel better, I can guarantee that. And so with regard to sugar, the amount of sugar that is consumed by the average Australian is 46 kilos per person per year. Now that is a huge amount. And you might say, I don't have that much sugar. Most of the sugar that comes in, as in around 75% into my body or into your body, is from refined foods. And so, processed foods. And so that is not the right way to go. So include more fruit. Forget eating extra fat. Fats are very concentrated. They're a source of energy, but they are a concentrated source of energy. And it's very obvious in some foods. But then there are other foods where you don't see the fat because it's baked inside. Your biscuits and your cakes and your muffins and your slices, cheesecakes. We know there's some fat there, but you can't actually see it. If you see a chunk of cheese, okay, you know that most of that is fat. If you see a piece of meat with the fat around it, you say, yes, I know that's fat. And so in some cases you can see it, in other cases you can't. And again, many of the fats that come into our system are actually hidden in food. And so think about that as well. Vitamins are very important, and minerals too, for vitality. A sufficient supply is absolutely essential for good health, and you're going to get most of those from whole foods, from plant foods in particular. And so why do I need to have vitamins in my body, coming into my body? To assist the nervous system, very important. I call that the anti-cranky system. To help the body to use the energy from food. And so the vitamins and minerals actually are there for many different reasons. And it also helps to release the energy from food, which is important, isn't it? It ensures healthy red blood cells, and it plays a part in disease prevention. Now, there are all sorts of snacks that we can choose from. And there are times when you say, I just need something. And so let's have a look at some healthy choices. Dried fruit and nuts, fresh fruit, of course, maybe a toasted sandwich, pita bread filled with salad, a yogurt or a fruit smoothie. Not saying that you have these 4 times a day, but there are times when you just know that you need something extra to be able to keep going, so choose one of those. In general, it is actually much better to not eat between meals and just to have your drinks between meals. But there are times when you may not have been able to have an adequate lunch for whatever reason, and it comes to 4 o'clock, you've still got a lot of work to do, and you just need something. So pick something that is healthy, not just a bar or a muffin or a piece of chocolate, which often is the choice. The body has tremendous capacity for maintaining and restoring health. And so God has created us in such a way that the body actually can restore itself. It can maintain health, it does maintain health, and it can restore health if we've been sick. And that system that is responsible for that action is called the immune system. The good news is that we have more control over our immune system than medical science previously realized. You can choose to have a healthy immune system. Now that is very good news. A healthy immune system detects and eliminates cancer cells. It reduces the risk of infections, certain types of autoimmune diseases, and the major killers in Western countries, which are heart attack and stroke. Now, what is it that I can do to keep that wonderful system working properly and at the right level? Exercise regularly. Eat a balanced diet. Avoid high-fat foods and don't have too many animal foods. Have lots of plant foods coming into your system. Drink enough water each day. Avoid alcohol and tobacco. So we're not saying just reduce your alcohol, only have a moderate intake. For the health of your immune system, it is no alcohol and no tobacco and no drugs. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Enjoy regular times of recreation. Be optimistic and laugh a lot. Positive thinking and trust in a wonderful God who loves us more than we can even imagine. Now, we've just looked at all the positives. We also need to mention the negatives. The negative is, on top of the list for your immune system, and you may be very surprised when I'm going to say this to you, it's obesity. Today, we are really concerned about the obesity that exists in our communities. And so we need to really strive to stay close to our ideal weight. And that will be different from one person to another. But obesity is damaging in many areas. It's also damaging for our immune system. The other one is alcohol. The next one is tobacco, street drugs, and unbridled stress. And so they are just the top 5. And that's the ones that we're just mentioning today. Choose to be active. Good food, exercise, and drinking enough water go hand in hand, and all are needed for a healthy body and a healthy mind. Choose a form of exercise that you enjoy. Do you enjoy exercising? Some people will use a gym to work out. Other people have different ways of exercising. But whatever you choose, do it regularly and keep it up, because it is very important to the health of your body, the health of your mind, and the strength of your immune system. Your immune system is like millions of fighting soldiers. They're all grouped in different groups for their different functions. They're actually blood cells. And they help to protect you against disease. Now, I don't know about you, but I want that immune system to be nice and strong in my body so that I can enjoy life at its best. As far as exercise goes, don't let these excuses get in your way. I don't have time. Now, we all live in a world that is very fast. It is for me too. And it's very easy for me to say, I haven't had time for the last 3 days, and the next 2 days look like they're going to be worse than the last 3 days. That's not very wise, because I won't be as effective or efficient if I take that attitude. You might say, well, I'm too tired. We all get tired. But when you exercise, you'll find that when you come back, as I have found, if I get home at night and I'm going to go for a walk, by the time I get inside, take my coat off, sit down, maybe look at a book or a magazine, easy for me to say, I don't think I'll go for a walk tonight because really I'm too tired. There are times when I've been invited to go for a walk and I've gone for that walk because that person has already come to my home and we were going to walk together, and I better do it. I have felt better when I have returned back to my home than before I left. And so exercise really is so vital. We talked about choices earlier. You have to choose to be active. And if I don't make a plan first thing in the morning, or even maybe the night before, and say, well, tomorrow I've got this much time for whatever my activities are, and at that time of the day, I'm going to have a half an hour or an hour for walking. If I plan it, it is more likely to happen than if I just sort of go through the day and say, well, I'll just see, yes, I'll exercise this afternoon. If I don't have a plan, often it doesn't happen. So make a plan, very important. Develop a program that works best for you. And we are all individuals, aren't we? And some people will say, well, I'd just like to go walking now. I'm a walking person. I'm not a gym person. You may be a gym person. That's fine. So try and work something that works best for you. Allow a week or so to see how your plan works. You may need to make some adjustments. Some people really benefit from keeping a diary of their activities. If you haven't been exercising regularly, you may want to start with a little and build up, because that is very important to get everything working properly so that you don't hurt yourself. Walking is great. It's actually the best all-round and safest activity. What's also interesting is that it's free, and all you need is a decent pair of walking shoes. Aerobic activity builds stamina and burns fat. Select different trails to make it interesting. Now for me, I have a 5K block that I walk that is in the area where I live. And I'm really happy to walk that any time of the year, because in the different seasons it looks different to me. It has a couple of good hills, which is also good for me as well. And so choose something that's going to work for you. But I want to encourage you to make that choice. And if you haven't been exercising, that you make it today. Now we're going to talk about something else. We've just talked about activity. Now I'm going to talk about rest, because rest is just as important as physical activity. If you don't rest properly, then your body isn't able to stay well. And so rest is also part of that whole pattern of living life at its best and health and well-being. Rest is a time when energy is restored. The body cannot function without adequate periods of rest. So it's important to have a balance between activity and relaxation. There's that word balance again. We can apply it to all areas of life. Your heart is a good example of balance between rest and activity. Every cell in your body follows this cycle of rest and work. And so our organs actually have very small rests. Well, your heart doesn't have a lot of rest, but it actually has a rest between the beats. Proper rest habits contribute to the quality of life, and they also add to the length of life. And so looking at rest, it is both a good night's rest and taking time to relax. It includes a weekly day of rest and enjoying a regular holiday that allows you to slow down. And so, when it comes to resting, we usually think of sleep, and certainly that's a very important part. What are the factors that would influence sleep? Let's have a look at that. An irregular sleep schedule. Now, some people are on shift work. Other people may have things happening in their life where they can't go to bed at a regular time. That makes it more difficult. And so an irregular sleep schedule will interfere with your rest. So try and have a regular sleep schedule. Maybe a day here and there is going to be late, but try and have a regular sleep schedule. A quiet bedroom. Some people like to put a television set in their bedroom. And you can choose whatever you want to put in your bedroom. But remember, you do need to have those hours of rest for your body to be able to function the way it should, and for your mind to be able to be clear so that you can remember things and so you can take in new information. The time preceding retiring also is important, that you're not all built up with whatever you've been watching or maybe you've been talking. Have a quiet time before you go to bed so that you can relax. We've just talked about activity, and regular exercise actually helps you to rest better. And so exercise is even important so that we can rest more efficiently and effectively. Your last meal of the day is also an important area. There are many people, when it comes to the last meal of the day, that is the main meal. And for most homes it is like that. And it's a meal that is probably higher in fat perhaps than your lunch or your breakfast, or most likely will be. That can interfere. You know, your digestive system takes quite a few hours to deal with the food that you have consumed. And if you have consumed a large meal, and say you sat down at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and you've consumed a large meal, by the time you're ready to go to bed, say 9:30 or 10 o'clock, your digestive system is still working. Now, when you go to sleep, your digestive system and everything else slows right down. So this is actually working for many, many hours while you're laying down, and your sleep may not be as restful. And so having the meal a little earlier and not having a large meal at the end of the day is actually a very good idea when it comes to sleeping properly. For some people, a warm bath is very helpful. And so try and work out what it is that suits you so that you can have a good sleep. Alcohol, tobacco and caffeine should not be consumed before you go to bed, because that also interferes with proper sleep. And so avoid those altogether. The greatest reward is the balance between work and play, action and rest. That actually yields the greatest reward. You are at a very special time of your life. It's a great time of your life. Show the world what you can do. You can achieve at school, you can perform in sport, and you can look your best. From the God you choose to the diet and the lifestyle that you follow, you can have life at its best. Thank you.